Kelsey and I talk a lot about this issue of, this segmentation in the RIA space, right? And if you really kind of boil it down, you have bigger legacy firms and you have the, let's just say, sort of up and coming, growing, smaller independent firms. And what I think is interesting sometimes, so they have different needs in general, but as it relates to pain, like at the end of the day, you're going to, not keep the same thing for 16 years, as Kelsey just said at the beginning in that stat, because there's enough pain to make a change. There's enough pain, you're an inability to grow, an inability to do whatever. And I've always gotten this sense that maybe they just don't, especially for legacy firms, on certain issues, they just don't feel enough pain. If you're a cash flowing, successful for the last 40 years, let's say RIA, why do I need to spend a couple $1,000s to go to Vegas and walk through the bazaar of new technology that's available? And it's kind of concerning because those firms in our mind are, well, they're either going to be there or they're not, but I think they all want to be there long term. But for whatever reason, they just, I don't know, they don't believe that there's not enough pain, or maybe it's that the changes that we think are happening, they don't believe in as much. I don't know if you have thoughts on what is it like. What at the end of the day, what's not motivating enough to a firm like that to go show up and figure out what's going on? I don't know if you have a sense of that.
Sure. I'd like to break this question down into two answers. I'll start with the RIA side, the buyer side, if we will. There's an incredible amount of success in that space, right? The success of growth. And to Kelsey's original statistic, 16 years, right? Many of these firms, I feel it's a bit of, I guess I'll be the one to take the gloves off because I'm currently unemployed, but I think there's a bit of hubris, right? About like the way things have worked for the last 20 years are good enough, right? I've grown my firm from, let's just say, $0 to $4 billion or $0 to 250 million, whatever it is. Therefore, why would I change something, right? When I go in and consult these firms, when I help these firms, I say, you're leaving money on the table. Right? That's the reality. Is if you fail to innovate, it's not that you won't continue to grow, it's the speed at which you will grow. I think that's what people need to recognize, is that technology is a complementary tool for advisors to grow faster, to be more efficient. So I think that's number one, is a bit of hubris, or a bit of like, it's worked out for us so far, why change now, right? And that's being short-sighted to where the industry is going as it relates to the modern investor. But I would challenge them to say, you're leaving money on the table. On the side of the technology, again, I'll take the gloves off. I think a great deal of these larger players are relying on inertia. They're relying on the fact that it's too painful to make these changes. Therefore, they don't need to invest in R&D, right? They just need to keep you sticky, maintaining your data or what have you, right? The pain of changing. I think that is an indictment in and of itself, because these technology platforms are relying, again, on inertia, right? And what I see is, back to your, quite frankly, wonderful kind of assessment of who I am as a mission-driven individual. Part of my goal is in this industry is to shed light on those modern technology solutions that are far superior to the incumbent legacy technologies, but they don't have the marketing or the bandwidth or the ability to kind of celebrate that message to the extent that they have to. So I believe that we need to do that. And I do believe that T3 does that, right? I do believe there's firms out there that do that. But the reality, so back to answering your question, on the RIA side, it's a bit of hubris as it relates to what are you leaving on the table without modernizing? And on the technology side, it's the inertia. It's the goal of making it too painful to make that shift.